Fucking weed. Wouldn't do that on the other one, but like on the Patreon only, fuck it, you guys get everything. This is gonna be just an hour of me bullshitting, I guess. Smoking some weed. I don't know what we're gonna be talking about. I'm looking at my 1911. I like 1911s. I wanted to do a video for Patreon only as something. It's like you guys are helping me out a lot, and I'm finally able to actually see the money from that. I think, fingers crossed. If that's the case, I'm really gonna start putting more effort into this. And one of the things I'd like to do is maybe like a monthly one of these, maybe weekly one of these. I don't know how often we're gonna do these. Uh, I am opening this as a place for you who are Patreoners to comment below this video, and like I will 100% respond to anything you say, and like this will be a lot more serious than the other comments. I try to address most comments. Some things I don't really have anything to say to, but like I say yep a lot, and I get that from my friend Matt Freeman. Yep. Um, Between that and King of the Hill, yep, just sums up a lot of things for me. Matt Freeman was my mentor in knife making. Basically, he's continue mission fuck the world knives or at Big Kitty FTW. Lots of other names. You can go find him. Google will be your friend. Um, I miss that motherfucker. I don't remember exactly where I was going about that, but like, fucking weed. He made cool shit though. I miss that fucker. I miss talking to him, and like a little bit of what we're doing here. I kind of want to keep some of him alive and some of my grandfather alive, and at the same time teach people to lead. Basically, like that's kind of what this is. This is prepping and guns and whatever, but like a lot of the rest of this is me smoking weed and bullshitting about various different things and showing you how to have command presence. Because like how I'm being here with you right now is exactly how I would be with a group of people who were about to go do something really fucked up. I would I would be joking around and fucking with them and like making sure everyone was good to go. That's like the mama bear in me or whatever. That's the den mother. Like, and this is what you if you are a leader in any way ever, it's how you should be. Like, a good leader takes care of his men and makes sure his men are taken care of. Everything is about them because everything they do reflects upon you. So, anyone who knows anything about leadership, if they're looking for a good leader, is going to look for a leader that's taking care of his men over and above himself, more than likely. That's what I would look for. The other thing I would look for is being fucking crazy. I like crazy people. I like crazy people because they do unpredictable shit. And maybe that's because I do unpredictable shit. And then, like a field officer or a senior NCO, what you need is someone that, if bad shit happens, can start being unpredictable on their own. Someone who can improvise, someone who's good with their hand on the ball. That's not everyone. Uh, those of us that have had fucked up childhoods, if you train that right and don't fall to pieces, you can be a very useful animal. And the main thing is, I'm kind of all to pieces all the time, right? Like, I'm not the most with it person, but as long as someone's throwing hand grenades at me, I am perfectly fine. I like adrenaline, and I am used to living in it. And my main issue in life is learning to live without it all the time, because if you continue to live with it, you'll die. But as a result of that, I uh, I don't do shit that other people do under fire. And this is like freezing up and a lot of other weird shit. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that happen because people's brains aren't programmed to think in a fight. They aren't programmed for violence. If you grew up in an abusive situation, or if you grew up just around fighters, or if you grew up fighting or any of this, you are hardwired in a different way from most people. Most people try their whole lives to achieve what you do naturally. I think that's very interesting. I've known a lot of other people like this, and like, this is my curse or whatever, is to be fucking crazy and smart at the same time for whatever reason. And I'm interested in stuff, and some of the stuff I'm interested in is this, and like it's sort of what got me into warrior culture and shit. And like, I'm not really into martial arts per se. I was always into shooting. Like, I did NRA small bore, NRA high power, that kind of shit. I've shot, shotguns a lot, but like, as far as, karate, not really. It's not really my bag. And like, I always kind of ignored those for various reasons. I don't want to talk shit about any of those, but it seems to me that most of those are made to take your money. And like, there's a few now that I'm interested in, but I'm more interested in the mental aspects of those martial arts than I am the arts themselves. Some of them, like the karate, I found very interesting for the weapons, because like, you think, it's a bunch of random ass shit or whatever, but like, dude, I made several of the like bullshit karate weapons in 5 minutes at a hardware store with less than $20. Like, they are at least a tool to have in your toolbox. Like, they're damn sure better than nothing. Like, the things that I made at Lowe's were a set of fucking nunchucks out of an oak dowel, and I made a staff. It's not a full length bow staff. It's the shorter. It's a 4 foot, like, I forget what they call it, but like the samurai used a staff that was about that long. And then I made a what do they call those? Kurisawa. The that's it. Anyway, it's like the little fucking garden tool, the sickle. And it's cool. Like, honestly, I spent $8 on the sickle, and I was like, I'm gonna have a garden. I might want a sickle, and I want to see if I can make this into a karate weapon. And I would not want to get hit with that. I don't think it would hold up to repetitive use, but it's not a single use item. Like, it's for sure, it would be a break somewhere on the third to fifth time. And for me, that means it's 2 uses, 3 uses. Like, for $8, yeah, I'll take that. Especially for a weapon like that, that really, I just want to have one to hang on the wall and look cool with a bunch of other shit. It's the point of a lot of this kind of shit, is like, I'm bored and wanting to make stuff, and not looking to like make knives, although I am thinking about forging a knife again. I was thinking about, I found my old grinder from high school, and it barely runs, and I have a few belts for it. And it's enough that I think I could make one off of that thing, or I could go buy a new grinder and some belts, spend like probably less than $100 and make, I don't know, I've got 3 files, and what I was thinking was making some like Scottish dirks out of files. with paracord handles and kind of doing like a fusion between a Wakizashi and a Scottish Dirk. Because, like, in my mind, those are very similar weapons. They're both short swords, secondary weapons, daggers, that kind of thing. The Wakizashi is a little bit longer, but like the Scottish Dirk I was looking at getting from Todd's Customs is pretty damn long. And I've got a couple of files that I think if I treat them right, I could get a pretty good length out of them for a short dirk, which in a modern context I think is perfect. I would have to have sheaths made for those. I've given up on sheath making. I can make a sheath. I cannot make a good sheath quickly for no money. I don't know how people do that. To me, making that sheath is every bit as much work as making the damn knife. And maybe that's because I like to think my shit through. I don't know. I've decided basically that I'm going to start making batches of knives when I make knives, and then sending them to a leather worker to have custom shit made for them, and then selling those. The other thing I was thinking about doing was I've been painting and modifying and making weapons and shit, like the karate weapons, for example, or like the shields or whatever it is. I could take some of these and make, duplicates or whatever. Like the shield, I was thinking about making some camo ones and some Captain America ones and throwing them on Etsy. And I could do that with some like the karate weapons and shit too. Because, like, in reality, the nunchucks cost whatever a dowel rod costs. And I don't know, I'd have to add something for my time and the paracord. But it's not an expensive thing. At the same time, I don't really want to be in the nunchuck business. They're not my favorite thing to make. I would have to get a new drill for that too. That's the other thing is I do want some tools, and I am going to be adding back specific tools, and I kind of want to get in the mindset of, okay, so if I was doing this on the side of the road someplace, what would I want to do that thing? And that's the stuff that I kept out of my blacksmith shop is all the forging equipment that in reality could fit in the back of a truck pretty easily. And if I could buy some sort of way to cut metal and grind metal and cut and grind wood too, they need to do both really. But if I could get that squared away for cheap and in a small-ish rig that worked off grid, like I could power it off of a fucking 200-watt solar system reasonably somehow, I want to do that. I'm also wanting to get like a bunch of DeWalt tools. I think a DeWalt angle grinder that's battery powered, a DeWalt cordless drill that's battery powered, cordless chainsaw, and like maybe a circular saw, a few other things. There's like a handful of tools that I'm gonna go fucking nuts in the DeWalt catalog. I found a chainsaw that runs off their batteries that I like. I don't really need a chainsaw per se. My thoughts are thus that any fire that I have is probably going to be because I want a fire. As such, I don't need a big chainsaw. If we were living up in like Alaska, I'd be a lot more worried about it. I have this chainsaw that I want to put in the kit because there's a bunch of reasons to have one. A and B. In the back of my head, a lot of these preps now are preparing for the next ice age, and I just anticipate shit getting colder. I don't really know why. It's in my bones, I guess. Something tells me. Maybe I read too much about fucking 11,600 years ago in Atlantis and shit. It's like I don't know. It's not that hard to buy some extra cold weather gear. It's kind of my thoughts. And like the only other things that I'm getting for that is like a camping splitting axe of some sort and that chainsaw. And all that shit is shit that I would need anyway. The only really crazy thing I'm buying is a set of snowshoes, probably. And that's more of a I want them kind of a thing. My cabin is going to be interesting. I'm kind of starting to get a preview of it in my living room here as like the preps start to pile up. Yeah, um, I think it's going to be like a bed, a chair, and a table, and then like a room full of supplies. At least until we get something else made. I can't wait to start living out in the wild somewhere, something wilder anyway. Not sure exactly how wild it's going to be. It's probably going to be, you know, somewhere in this area of the country, right? In Oklahoma, Texas. So not too wild. I'm just tired of being around so many other people. It's like torture, I feel. Cities are torture. Your choices in life are basically to choose to socialize, which runs its own gambles, or choose to like isolate, which runs its own gambles. And I think it is such now that the entire world has chosen basically just to start isolating, like somewhere midway through high school for some people. Some people make it out of high school and then start it. Some people make it all the way through college and then start it. But whenever you start working somewhere, you start isolating yourself from people. And it's because you're literally being worked to death like a slave. And because no one thinks of, you know, a job being what it is. Like a job is not a career. A job is something that you do to save money to go and do your own thing. Always has been. But we've like created this society of people that live on jobs. There's no careers, there's no whatever, like there's no farming anymore even. Like I don't know what the answer is anymore. Seems like the elites have elected the option of, hey, we're going to let a whole bunch of people die. And it scares me that some of their answers to this solution or this problem are going to be, you know, crazy shit. Everything from like artificially created meat to uploading people to a computer, which in my mind is killing you. Like, I would not want to exist without a body. Flat out. I don't care how cool you make my digital prison. Um, it seems to me that like we are fighting the same war we fight on this planet all the fucking time. And it's the fight between totalitarianism and freedom. It's every fucking time. It's some fucking tyrant or whatever somewhere. And like, I don't even know who the tyrant is this time. It seems like they are a billionaire somewhere in Europe that does not like America and does not like Russia and like is using China as like its whipping boy slave colony. And then China is being encouraged to do what it's doing by being given its own slave colony in fucking Africa. China has recolonialized all of Africa. India is real friendly with Russia now. Always kind of has been. It's one of those things. If I were India, I wouldn't want to piss Russia off either. Russia could be a very big problem for India in reality, if it wanted to be. Uh, if Russia decided to take India over, there's not much that India could do about it. Always kind of been that way, but at the same time, Russia, even when it was the Soviet Union, generally has respect for other countries. Like, they might do some shady shit inside your borders, but they're not gonna fucking like attack you openly like that. That's not how they work usually. The thing in Ukraine is interesting. It's basically a civil war between the Russians. No one's going to look at it that way, but world history will look at it that way. The Ukrainians are Russians. I don't know if they know that or not. They'll find that out soon. The ones that don't think that are all going to die. Uh, it's sad, I think, in a way. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think we should spend all of our country's money just protecting bullshit around the world. Like, people should protect their own shit. Like, I think our grand experiment here is we showed the world what the world could be like for 70 years if you just did shit right. And like, the world had its problems, but there was no, major wars, genocides, nuclear wars. Like, the few that there were little self-contained conflicts, really. Our invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan was probably the biggest deal. The thing that I keep wondering is, why in the fuck did we really go to Iraq and Afghanistan? The answers all seem to me to be religious in nature. Like, it either has something to do with uniting all of the Arab world under the Saudis, except for Iran, because Iran is Iran. And from my view of history right now, of the Muslims, the Iranians are probably the good ones, sadly. Like, it's hard to tell with Muslims, right? But the reason I say the Iranians are probably the good ones is because the other one is like taking over the whole Middle East and forming a new empire slowly. We went through and killed all of these dictators that kept those countries, from going into a religious rule of like a caliphate that's ruled from Mecca. That's what we've given the Saudis, is we've given them a free shot at a caliphate if they want one. And for whatever reason, we ensured that the Afghanistan, or the people of Afghanistan, will never be bothered again, I guess. We left a shitload of guns there. I don't understand that. It's one of those things that if you told me that we were attacked by an alien invasion in Afghanistan, it would not surprise me. I think we could be actively fighting aliens right now. We wouldn't fucking know it. We live in a bubble like Nazi fucking Germany did in World War II. We don't really know what's going on. We've been fighting a world war really since 2001. And it's like, at what point you call a spade and fucking nuke the bitch. That's why Russia's pissed off. Is Russia's oh, Russia's complicated. Russia likes it when we fight Muslims because they Russia has a Muslim problem, always has, and that's what happens when you have a giant land border with a Muslim country. Like Russia is a very very Christian, you know. Think of what they are now as somewhat of a mix between the Soviet Union, the Russian Empire, and the United States of America. There's some sort of crazy hybrid because we did colonialize them to some extent when they fell, and it was more of a, hey, you guys are, you know, not doing well. Let's help you. And I don't really know if that was a good thing for them or not. Time will tell. But anyway, when we were fighting the Muslim countries, Russia was all into whatever we were doing. That's why, really, our policies in the Middle East dictate a lot of our shit with Russia. People don't understand that, like, Russia makes a shitload of money off of some of those countries. They have stakes in some things. And in addition to that, Russia doesn't want to see a giant, Muslim empire on its southern border, which it looks like we effectively delivered to them. I think this might be part of our plan in the long run on how to keep the world stable once once we ran out of money, because we're running out of money. That's what's going on. And like we'll bail ourselves out of it. We'll be okay. We'll go through a rough patch, be a rough 30 years probably. That's my prediction. Probably 40 years, assuming that there's no nuclear war. Um, but if there's a giant Muslim caliphate, that's going to keep Europe, China, and Russia very, very busy. Because basically, the Catholic Church you don't think of as having much power, right? Except you're wrong. There are entire countries still that, like, if the Pope says one thing or the other, completely change what they do. It's very much the same with Muslim countries and the Saudis now, or it's going to be. You'll see it when it starts to happen. But they're going to make their empire. They've built up a shitload of money, and then they spent that money on the world's best military. A lot of people don't know this. The Saudis have one of the world's best armies right now. Like, we fully equipped and outfitted them and trained them. What was it, starting like 2016-ish, going through till now. They've been given modern planes, laser guided munitions, modern rifles. They bought LWRCs with aim points on them. I don't know what else, but they spent quite a bit of money. And as I understand it, their plan, I think, is basically to watch the world in the Middle East kind of implode after the war stops over there and watch the warlords start to pop up. And then they'll go in and buy them off one at a time because that's the easiest way to do that. And then they'll just have a caliphate. That's what I would do. And the real war in my mind that's coming that no one's talking about is now that we've done this and the Arab world is going to be all united as a religious empire outside of Iran, which is it's basically the Iranians practice Shia Muslim Islam instead of Sunni, and those two don't get along. Iraq is a mix of the two, but thanks to our wars there, I think we pretty much fixed that. I think the Shiites decided to back up and go home, or they died. Like, and this is the thing that like no one gets, that if 9/11 was done by anyone, would have been done by the Saudis because they want to build their caliphate. And they have really deep pockets, and like this is they're definitely one of the players in the world. Whenever Trump was standing with that glowing ball with the king of Saudi Arabia, that was like some new world order shit. Just saying. And like China, I don't know what China wants exactly. If I were Southeast Asia, I would be very concerned. Though, if I were Australia, I would be very concerned. I think China's going to take all that shit. It's kind of slowly building up its military power now, and I think it's waiting for the United States to have something happen militarily or economically that we won't be able to fight them, and then they're just going to sweep in and start, doing the Japan thing from World War II, where they try to take the whole Pacific. Because in reality, all of that shit's valuable. A lot of people don't think about it that way, but like tourism alone, if you controlled the Pacific, it's worth some money. Like, there's a bunch of other reasons, natural resources. There's oil out the yin yang. All the reasons Japan wanted the Pacific in World War II was resources. We always fight over resources, and right now we have these big, massive mega cultures built up in America, Russia, China, and India, really. Like, you could say the Middle East to some extent, if you want to consider everything but Turkey and Iran as pretty much one country now, which I think it's pretty much true. Turkey is going to be the interesting one. Like, if Turkey and Saudi Arabia come to some sort of deal, which I think is highly likely because they have a common religion and they have no reason not to like each other, really. Like, they hate each other because of some old bullshit, a bunch of reasons. But if they could put that aside for 5 minutes, they could see that, like, the common enemy is the rest of the world and not each other. And that would be dangerous. I think that's one of those things that, like, I called this CIA radio the other day. I'm hoping that there are CIA agents listening to this, my ramblings. I try not to say anything too crazy, but like I also like saying crazy shit. And like this is part of the beauty of this show is I'm purposefully trying to say some crazy shit and some poignant shit all at the same time so that no one who's actually a serious person ever listens to me. And the thought there is basically, if you can't handle me at my funniest and worst and whatever, then you know, are probably one of them at the end of the day. Just kind of my feelings. And I don't really want to teach everyone. Like, that's the thing that Matt Freeman really taught me. There's been several people that have taught me that is, if you're going to do something like this is like an online class in bullshit. This is bullshit 101. It's the online class and all the shit that I like, basically. And as such, I don't want to teach someone that has a full cup or whatever. Like, I made a video at that Patriot Jedi guy the other day when he said I didn't have any balls because I deleted his 1911 comment. I don't even remember his fucking 1911 comment, first off. Second off, I just don't care. I really don't. About a lot of things. And, someone's 1911 comment is one of those. I don't remember really where I was going with that, but I need to have bullet points or something for some things. I think that would help. But I also kind of just like freeballing it. And that's how you get the best, like, bullshit mixed in with real shit. Because, like, this show is me trying to, like, talk about what we're all going through and kind of joke around at the same time while giving information. This is like the Johnny Carson of the apocalypse, something like that. A little bit of everything. And, like, I'm not the funniest person in the world. Like, I have this kind of, like, dark, sick sense of humor. And I don't know. I like what I like. I'm definitely funnier with other people around. I need to get guests and shit. Not like just like one guest. I need to get like a crew of people to do a show with or something. Oh, but that's its own pain in the ass, really. Oh, I really like the freedom of just being able to hit the live button whenever I like and talk about whatever I want to talk about. It's refreshing and fun, I guess, to just be able to ponder things and chit chat. I kind of wonder if I could make a bunch of money making Captain America shields out of those riot shields I bought. I bought only one of them, but I bought a $60 round plastic riot shield and I painted it with my own kind of like Buddhist wheel logo thing, Wheel of Pain. Oh, I've been thinking about buying a couple more colors of paint and doing another one as a Captain America shield. But if I did that, I almost guarantee that I would be able to sell probably half a dozen of them. And that's why I'm like a little bit like, why don't I just buy a dozen of those shields and do like 8 of them Captain America and like 4 of them as camo. Do different camouflage patterns and we do one as the wheel. So I like that and it's an easy pattern to do. Play around with them. That's the thing is really with that shield and spray paint, the world is your oyster. You could do anything you wanted. It's a blank canvas. Oh. And my thing is, as a self-defense shield or whatever, I think that's pretty good for a civilian thing to have in a house or something. Like, I wouldn't want to get hit with the edge of that shield, and it does legitimately protect you from some things. I think it would take quite a bit to stab through that. Even like basically, the only thing that you have to worry about with that shield is guns. Most arrows wouldn't even go through that shield. I don't think. That should be a whole video or whatever. Uh, the person that should do that is Todd's Stuff. I would love to see Todd's Workshop, Todd's Stuff, whatever, do some sort of crossbows versus those round riot shields. I love his channel. If you if you've never seen Todd's Stuff, or Todd's workshop. I talked about him in another video earlier. I talked about his knife anyway. He makes a Scottish dirk that I really like. Oh, he has a big YouTube channel that he makes everything, catapults and all sorts of things. I quite enjoy it. It's very much a like what if history making kind of a channel. It's one of those that like if I lived in England, I would know him. Because we're miles and miles apart or whatever. I never have even reached out. But at the same time, uh, I would love to do a video with Todd. I would love to see how he's making his budget line. I have theories because the way that I would do that would be to patternize it to where like we're making a lot of the same thing, and then I would have some of the stuff that's like machine made components that I would just be cleaning up and hand assembling, hand finishing. That's how I would do a lot of those. And then I would have a bunch of journeyman knife smiths that I was teaching to make the full product or whatever, and also how to finish up these quick ones. Because like that's the thing is if you had, if you had like the brass pieces made en masse and the handles made en masse or whatever by some sort of machine, at least get you most of the way there, and then you're just hand finishing. That would save a lot of time. But I'm curious as to how he's doing that at the prices that he's doing it at in England. He could be having them made overseas somewhere, but I doubt that. I get the impression from him that he wants it made there. That's a lot of people that make this kind of stuff is that they for whatever reason have pride in where they are and they want to make things there. And like I think that whole movement is a response to this like, oh, well, we'll just have shit made in China. And like China can make a billion cheap anythings. I can make, you know, handmade one of a kind craftsman level items. There's not that many people in the world that can do that. I think that's cooler. And like my one of my next projects that I want to do, it may be a fall project. We'll see. But I also have some free time right now, so we might just say fuck it and do it in the heat. But it's like 104 degrees outside right now, and I want to forge. I want to forge a file like I was talking about earlier into a Scottish dirk, and I don't know. I'm excited about that. It's cool to make anything, and if I do that, I want to like walk you guys through the process of that in videos. And I think I'm going to make that Patreon only for sure. I might make this first video like this Patreon only for like a month or so, and then use it as a hey, come check out what I'm doing on Patreon kind of thing. And I might use the start of the knife making series for that too. Like I hate to put some stuff behind a paywall, but like I wanted you guys to get a good sample of what I was gonna start doing for free. And like a lot of this is gonna stay for free. I don't know what percentage of what is going to go on Patreon, but like more and more of this is going to be going on Patreon only. That's why this is going to be a good video to be live on there with that title because like that's the real topic of this video, I guess, is hey, I'm going to be doing a lot more content that's Patreon only. I really needed to get a Q&A thing set up, but like I'm rethinking that. Like, I need a better way for you guys just to send me questions. Maybe I'll set up an email. I do have, that's a good idea. I will make an email that I'm going to send to Patreon members to send questions in for um, Q&As. It'll be like if you're in the $5 or above club or whatever, you get the email. I've got a couple of $3 members right now, so I'll probably give them that email too. Like, that's my thing is right now at the start, like, some of this is like everybody's getting everything, but that's going to start getting differentiated too. I want to make it actually worth it at the $5 level. So that's like the amount that I think most people are willing to give if they really like something. And the $1 and the $3 level, I want to have things there for them too. And the $1 level is I'm going to be posting videos on Patreon only, like this one. And some of them will never be off of Patreon. And for $1 a month, you get access to them. I think that's a good idea. So a good deal. Especially because I'm going to be like walking you through how I would make a knife out of a file, which is something worth knowing. And I'm going to be using some of my tools that I have, but some of the tools I'm going to be using are going to be shit that you can buy cheap. And really, the tools that I have for forging, it's all cheap shit that I bought and collected over the years and kind of made my own thing. That's the great thing about forging is that really you need a big heavy chunk of metal and something that heats stuff up, a hammer and tongs. Everything else will come with time. Like, my rig for forging is sweet because it has different things on it. There's a couple different vices and an anvil that has many different surfaces on it. And that's the thing with forging is it depends on what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to make just knives, maybe you don't need all of that shit. But if you're wanting to really do a bunch of different things, it helps. Like the first forging project I ever did is a little coiled snake. I had it like do not step on snake at first, and I turned it into a protective cage for a jewel at the top of a baseball bat. When I did that, I sunk the head down. It kind of forms a, I don't know, a little cage made of this round file that I coiled into a snake. It's pretty dope, I think. But you can do a lot of things forging. It's not just making a knife. Like, you have the ability to squish metal, and that's what I'm going to try to teach in the little series I want to do on knife making. Is okay, so basically, what is it you're trying to achieve, and how do you achieve that? And kind of some of the whys. And for knife making, the thing you need to get is forging is one of the ultimate things for this because you can heat up the piece of steel that you want to make shit out of and just mold it like clay into the shape that you want it to be in. But it's fucking 1700 degrees or some shit, and you have to hold it with tongs and beat it with a hammer instead of just molding it with your hands. But the hot metal moves very much like clay. So it's one of those things that, like, if you get how to make things, you get how to make things. And forging is one of those things that, like, there's several very good blacksmiths to watch on YouTube for some how to's. I really enjoy Black Bear Forge. Not the one that Matt always says, but the one that's famous on YouTube. He is in Colorado somewhere, and he's a retired firefighter, and he makes good videos. He has good quality videos, good projects. None of them are really knife related, and that's what I was looking for. I'm like, I already kind of know generally how to make knives. I've looked into that to death. I'm wanting to be a better forger so that I'm better at knife making. So I watched a lot of Black Bear Forge and just started playing. And I think that's really the way to learn. I think there's nothing to do with forging that you couldn't either talk to me about and find YouTube videos about and some combination of that and go and do yourself. Like I wouldn't do that and like go buy a power hammer. Like there's some dangerous shit. There's some places to be careful or whatever, but like this is where having a spirit guide or whatever to whatever it is you want to do is handy. And it's like, how do I do X? Well, the thing that I found useful about my mentor Matt Freeman for knife making is that he was not a person that was it has to be done this way. And when I went looking for other knife makers, I pretty much stopped listening to anyone that was like, well, you have to do this and done and buy this tool and whatever. Like, fuck that. Like, I at the time was using a $30 grinder from Harbor Freight and was making functional knives out of files. So don't tell me about what you have to do. You know, I liked Matt because he came from the same space. He was a garage rat in California, and same thing. You do what you have to do to fucking make knives because that's what you're doing. Like it doesn't matter what century you're in for whatever reason. Like I've met other people like this that like it doesn't matter if they had been born in World War II, they would have been making knives. They've been born in the 1700s, they would have been making knives. This is a if they had been born in the Neolithic, they would have been making knives. I find it fascinating. It's a culture that has always existed alongside all of you people. I think the reason that the knife makers are the way they are is because we know we don't need you. Most of us are people that like camping and like being away from other people and like doing both of those things and making knives. So like I think the mountain man movement is alive and well in the Forged in Fire crowd. That's how I got into knife making. Was I was into survival and that kind of shit because of the TV shows from back in the day, like Les Stroud and all that shit, and some other shit. Like there was things before that got me into survival, but those shows didn't help. Like I was, stuck at gun shows helping my grandfather when I was too young to be buying guns. And the things that I found at gun shows that interested me were silver dollars, books, knives, and like cool militaria. So all the other stuff at the gun show that I actually ended up buying a bunch of. And I don't have that much of any of that now because basically everything I ever did that with, I collected a bunch of it. I got bored with it. I waited for it to be worth a bunch of money and I sold it. And this is what I do. This is what I think most people should do. Don't hang on to things for forever. Like I find my joy not in the having of possessions, but in like the thrill of the hunt. I enjoy getting the new thing and having the experience. And this is the healthy way to do this. There's a few ways to do this hobby, and like some of them border on alcoholism. Some of them are the result of alcoholism, to be honest. Um, there's ways to do anything, whether it's guns or prepping, that you doesn't just kill your entire life, I guess. And the knife making thing, I guess, is in with those. But I think it's That's a cool thing, and I'm glad to see that there was a resurgence of it with Forged in Fire, and that it's not just me that was into this. Um, I think it was one of those things that like everybody always kind of liked knives anyway, and I don't know. I don't really understand why Forged in Fire in particular took off because it always seemed like I would occasionally meet someone that liked knives. I guess it's like it's a billion-dollar industry for a reason. Like people like knives, and like people legitimately need some knives, but like most of the knives that people actually use these days all fall into like a sub $30 knife category. They're like the Spyderco Tenacious, Mora knives, budget buck knives, Gerber knives, shit like that. That's what people buy to actually use. It seems. I I like encouraging people to make their own knives as opposed to buying mine or whatever. Or even I guess buying a custom knife over buying a factory knife is you get kind of the same thing, but the budget version of that is making your own because you're going to get a better knife and you have full control over whatever it is. And it has its ups and downs. I'm not going to say that like I haven't fucked shit up, but like the way to be with that shit is like Bob Ross. Is like, well, there's no reason to get mad about it. Getting mad about it's going to make it worse. So happy accident. Now, this happy little tree is going to be a happy little knife, I guess. I once spent like 9 hours turning an 8-inch knife I was working on into the pocket knife I carry every day. Somewhere around halfway through it gave up being a fucking Bowie knife, and now it's a wee tea baby one. I love it because it's like that knife wanted to be that apparently. Like I was playing with my new grinder, and I had bought a 2x72 that was ran off 220 and had a 3 horsepower motor on it. That's a lot of grinder. That's that's enough grinder that you can just feed shit into it and it turns metal into piles of dust. It was really cool. And I was playing with all the new settings on it and new speeds and trying out new things. And like with that grinder, it was not very hard to overdo something because it was so powerful. And like that's the thing that I think a lot of people would be afraid of on something like that. That like really working around one of the small ones a lot. I think that's the best thing you could do as a knife maker is go to Harbor Freight and buy the cheapest belt sander they have. Start playing with it. Kill one of those, and then go buy another grinder. That's what I did, and I think it's a pretty good idea. I think that at least when I bought one of those, they were $30. Now I think they're like 60. I was looking at grinders at Grizzly, and the grinders that I would get at Grizzly right now, they have a 4x48, I think, inch belt sander with a disc sander on the side of it. That's like $200. I would get that, and then I would get, um, I don't know. On the other grinder, there's so many options. I would probably go for the 1x42, but I would really want a 2x48 belt sander that was set up probably in a horizontal configuration with a slack belt. I like doing convex grinds, and that's what I would need to do that. The 4x32 with the disc grinder on it. The disc grinder, it's useful if you want it. I've never bothered even learning how to use one. I've occasionally like used it while it was on because there's a spinning wheel of sandpaper there, but like that's it. I don't really care for the disc sander that much. It doesn't do anything particularly well for knife making. It is a good thing for some things. I had someone build some cabinets at a house that I had a shop in once, and I had my 6x48 with a what are those, a disc grinder on the side of it again, and he asked if he could borrow it because he was doing cabinetry and fitting stuff or whatever. I'm like, I sure, do whatever you want. He loved that I had a big like 12-inch disc sander just sitting in the garage. So like it comes in handy, and like this is some stuff to consider when you're buying a tool is you are wanting to do X, Y, or Z right now, but you should buy the tool that will do the most things for the money. In reality, there's a lot of times where you will regret not spending the extra $50. And that's not everything in life. There's a whole lot of shit at Harbor Freight that's good. And like the place I would go to shop for tools, at least any shop tools, is Grizzly. Grizzly makes good stuff for the money. It's Chinese made, but it's like of the Chinese made shit, it's the stuff that lasts forever that's made in China. Like I don't know exactly what they do, but like it seems to me that there's a consorted or considered effort to have a bunch of shit from China that just fails all the time, and then to have some shit from China that is just the best of the best thing you ever had, and to have kind of a mix of both, and that way they can, you know, continue to milk you basically. But Grizzly is a good company to do business with. And if you're anywhere near Springfield, Missouri, they have a showroom there, and I think they have one up in Minnesota too. But the Grizzly tools, I used to have a spindle sander from them, and that was hands down best the best electric tool I've ever owned. Pretty much, like I had a saw from Milwaukee too that I liked. I actually sold those because basically I'm wanting to upgrade on my bandsaw. I don't know exactly to what yet, but I'm leaning towards a battery powered DeWalt in a swag portaband table, and that's gonna probably be fucking expensive. But like I want the ability to do this wherever, and if the grid was on or if the grid was off, and I'm kind of making my blacksmith shop at least initially mostly off grid capable. And I'll rig up some sort of way to mount that bandsaw on something I can move it around. I need a drill press too. I need a bunch of shit. I sold my drill press because it was really old and a bunch of shit didn't work on it anymore. And I needed money, and someone would give me $100 for it because it said Hitachi on it. I'm like, it's yours. And I needed a more professional rig anyway. I need a bigger drill press. I have my great grandfather's in storage that I could get out and rebuild, but I don't know how game I am for that. My church. My cat's here now. Little church man. He just wanted lovin's. Oh, what else? I need to buy lube. That's one thing I think a lot of people don't think about when it comes to their guns for shit it's the fan is lube. I have a big tube of lithium grease in my preps right now that like if it came down to it you could lube rifles with that, but it's not ideal for all conditions and for all problems. There's a lot of times where a can of rim oil or can of Ballistol comes in handy. to be honest, a can of Ballistol spray painted in camouflage is probably not the worst idea in the world to have in your bag for if shit hits the fan. That's one of those like, why would you ever need that? Blah 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 blah. Well, think of how many times you've needed a can of Ballistol at the range, and now think that you're going to be doing all of that range shit while walking around with the gun. Like a lot of people over the years have been like, why don't you bring X, Y, or Z to the range? And most of that is because I'm not going to have X, Y, or Z. Like some things I think it's smart to bring. Like a clearing rod is smart enough that I usually have one attached to at least one of my rifles, if not multiples. Like if it's set up to be like a, home defense carbine AR-15, it probably has one of those on it if it's mine, especially if I only have one gun. And that's where that started, was in COVID. I started taping a cut down cleaning rod to my AR-15 pistol. And the reasoning behind that at the time was that that was the only gun I had that was a rifle, or in a rifle caliber. That whole fucking pistol thing is such a fuck up. Like, basically, I couldn't believe it when they did that shit. I really can't believe it that it's been this long now and they're still trying to fight overturning it back or whatever. And I think at this point, the Supreme Court is probably going to overturn the NFA here pretty soon. That's one of my predictions. I think the National Firearms Act is an unconstitutional tax. And there are other people of that opinion, and we are starting to win. And the crazy part of all this is our system working. You want to have faith in something? Have faith in America, I guess. Because, like, even if there was election fraud, which I guarantee you there has been for quite some time, I also guarantee you, because of what's going on in the courts, if they don't pack the court, Democrats are going to prison. There's been shit that has happened under Biden that is woefully criminal. There's shit that happened under Obama that was that way too. And like, they all love to accuse Bush and Trump of doing all these crimes. Bush did some legitimately shady shit in rebuilding Iraq and paying his dad's golf buddies to do it. I'll admit that. But that's a pretty far cry from some of the things that are currently going down, I think. Or maybe that's the start of this. And maybe the Bushes need to go to fucking prison too. We need to go know what the fuck is going on in our government. Why in the fuck? I've been saying this shit for as long as I've been alive. I remember being like 5 years old and talking with my grandfather and his friends about this shit. And some of this was I had been hanging around them and listening for a long time. And some of it was that like I would occasionally say something that even my grandfather would go like, Jesus. Because like I don't know, I've always had a way of cutting through fucking bullshit. I think it's because there's something wrong with me, to be honest. Or maybe there's something really right. I think there's something really wrong with society. Oh. I need to get like a set of horseshoes. I hope my buddy I'm building shit with likes to play horseshoes. I need to get a bunch of shit like that. Like, I think these are the things that like people will be wanting when shit hits the fan comes. So they're gonna be wanting like chess sets and horseshoes and shit like that. So like part of my game with having the knife making stuff and the ability to make that is if I can make you a Bowie knife with sheath out of nothing but a pile of fucking like raw materials in my garage, I can make you almost anything in my garage. Okay? Like, I have some machining stuff that I can't do. Like, that's, if I could fucking like type my wet dream of a life partner into a computer at this point, it would be someone that was just like the world's biggest computer nerd that loved 3D printing and milling and CNC and all of that shit, because I can't do any of that. But all of the stuff that I can do, no one in the fucking world can do anymore, because like most people don't just start forging knives in their garage somewhere in high school because they you know they're a psycho. I guess, I don't know. I always like knives. Why wouldn't you like a knife? The thing that I like most about knives over guns is that I can make one myself. And like, I've made guns myself. I made a 1911. Well, that's hard to say. I took a 1911 frame and built it up into a gun. It's kind of like an AR-15 thing. Um, you know, it's a kit at that point. But when you like forge the blade yourself, I think there's something more to that. And I think there's something more to the fact that like this is a physical thing that you have to endure doing. It's hot, it's laborious. You have to use your head. Like, this is not putting an AR-15 together or putting a lightsaber together or some shit. This is like actually making a weapon. And I know I just like ruffled some jimmies there or whatever, but like, seriously, I think it'd be a good thing for like everyone before the age of 20 or something to have done this at some point. A, it's fun. And B, it's honestly a useful practical skill. I don't know how many things I've had since I've had a forge in my garage that I have not had a forging problem that the forge, anvil, or vise for the forge solved. And like, not like, oh, well, that was like some half-assed thing or whatever. No, like, it legitimately was the exact right tool for the job. And this is where I think having a shop that is made to make things in is a useful prep. And this is kind of like some, if you look into the maker movement, it's kind of lefty and weird and gay, in my opinion. But the knife making community is the right wing, gun community side of the maker space, basically. If you like that stuff at all, then stay tuned. Go watch Forged in Fire. I like Forged in Fire because it's entertaining from like a human level, and there's some stuff in it to do with knives. And they even throw in like history and stuff, which is cool. Like, I really have no issue with that show. Like, it's kind of goofy, and it kind of has made a mockery of a lot of things. But at the same time, I enjoy it and I love watching it. I wouldn't be on it. I was asked to be on it several times. I think that's interesting. I think they were really, asking the entire fucking internet to be on that thing if they got to me. I posted a couple of nice pictures of knives I'd made, and they asked me to be on Forged in Fire. Like, man, that's all it takes. I don't think they would. I don't know. I don't think they would enjoy that. If I ever did get a chance to be on national television, I think I'd probably take it to, say something hilarious. The world isn't real. It's all a simulation. They're coming after. Oh! Just end it there. do some Alex Jones shit. Like, they're never going to let you on ever again anyway. The Forged in Fire, in my opinion, is very much like the Prepper show or the survivalist shows. They took these people that they, as Hollywood executives, think are like fucked up, quirky people, and now they're putting them out somewhere with a camera. And then they're making fun of them. At least that's what I see in, all of those, is that it's West Coast weirdos making fun of shit that I love. And like maybe that's just my own interpretation now after, years of watching this shit, years of watching, them put the kookiest fucking people they can find in any community on TV. And maybe it's just because I'm in so many different communities that cross fucking political and other boundaries. Like that's one of the unique things about this channel in particular, I think, is that you're gonna get some unique videos from me. Most people aren't gonna do a fucking whore bag shit hits the fan kit video. I'm 100% gonna do that. It's an important thing to know. You need to have some fucking condoms and some lingerie, and heels will make you money, bitch. I'm just saying. Don't be too proud. Oh, half of my thing is that like I don't care one way or the other. So in my like James Bond kit of equipment, there's 100% some like lipstick, high heels, and like lingerie. I think anyone interesting should have that shit in their equipment, to be honest. It's fun. It's one of those things that like it's part of who I am. And I figure if I'm going to be judged by the world and the AI gods and whatever, I'm going to be judged for who and what I am. And uh, in reality, I'm all about love and having very, very nice military grade weaponry. I don't know why those go together, but they do. I think this is interesting because, like, the goddess Aphrodite in ancient Greece and Rome and shit, she was trans and she was a goddess of war and sex. And I think it's funny how many trans women I've met that are into war and sex. I think it's something to do with like traditionally speaking. I think trans women throughout history were a thing. 100% did happen for one reason or another, and they really like to tag along with war parties because they're like women that could keep up. I think that's where that comes from. So like trans women are like the fucking military hookers of the world. That's my current theory. Maybe I'm wrong. I think a lot of things I think are probably wrong according to normal people. Why would you ever want to be normal? The thing I've got to ask is I've seen normal people. They seem pretty fucking miserable. And don't get me wrong, I've had my moments in my life where I was pretty fucking miserable too, but like at least it's not every day, all day. Couldn't imagine living my life to others' expectations. And like this, I think, is a lot of the world right now. In reality, what do you really want? What do you have at the end of the day? That's what COVID asks the world. What you have at the end of the day is what's in your house, what's in your family. And I think people are shifting their priorities in life towards these directions. And like the thing that I came away with is that I didn't want to be in the city and that I don't really want to go on vacations. I don't really want to do anything. I want to have my own land and do what I do. Like maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I don't want a vacation. I don't want, some trip to fucking, Hawaii or whatever. I'd take it. But like this is the thing I did when I sold my car. I thought about things I wanted to do, and one of the things I wanted to do was take a trip to Hawaii. So this spring, I found a lovely gentleman that thought this would be fun too, and we opened up all the fucking windows in the house and let the breeze in the spring, and played some Jimmy Buffett music and threw a beach on the TV and ordered Hawaiian food and just chilled out like it was a hotel room in Hawaii and fucked like rabbits for a week. Like, that's my idea of a vacation. Like, I really don't care about where we go because I really don't ever intend to leave the hotel room usually. Unless, like, we are really going to go someplace cool. Like, then I would want to go places, but, like, that's not really my thing. I've been a lot of places. I've seen a lot of things, and I have found that most things in real life are underwhelming. Not because of whatever it is, but because of all of the bullshit that you have to deal with to get there. If I could ride a horse and go see the Grand Canyon right now, I might go do that. But there's a bunch of reasons why that's not going to happen. And like, it's one of those things that like our world has just gotten so overpopulated and shit that like I'm cool with having my own little slice of nature somewhere. I find, beauty in nature in my backyard. I don't need to go to fucking Yosemite or whatever. I want the place I live to be full of it. Like if you saw the yard at the place I'm at now, you'd be like, what the fuck happened? And that's on purpose. Uh, I had a police officer told me that they thought my home was abandoned. Again, like I I am prepped to some level on some things beyond reason, I think, and that's one of those. But I really don't want to have to deal with people. And I like having possums and shit running through my yard. I have at least a couple of possums that live somewhere around here. I have a bunch of squirrels that live around here. I have a bunch of rabbits that live in my backyard under my um, shed. And like I love this house, but like it's not really mine. Like this is a family home that I own a piece of, basically, and I'll never get any of the money of that or whatever. And I am okay with that. But part of the deal with that was, getting to stay here or whatever. I really just want to keep this house for forever. I was hoping to figure out how to pay the rest of it. And I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, I was in a position to help and they needed it and I did it. And they have been in the position to help me many times. And I don't really want to get into that, but the only thing I don't like about this house is that it's in Tulsa. I like where it's at in Tulsa. I just don't particularly want to be in a city anymore. And the reasons I don't want to be in a city anymore is because inevitably you end up dealing with the government. And every government everywhere is to the point now where I want to fly a pirate flag and shoot cannons at them. So we're going to go build something. It just sucks that like you can't just stay where you are. And that's this little section of this neighborhood, like my neighbors next to me are kind of the same way, and they just let their yard kind of go and have let the animals have it. And we have this like little cool hippie forest here on where I live, and I desperately want to have that wherever I go. And I kind of have a feeling that if I buy 5 acres of land or something out in the middle of nowhere, eventually it'll get that way. I had a red-tailed hawk leave the pelt of a squirrel up in a fucking pine tree here until it freeze dried or some shit this winter, and it fell down uh, on my walkway, and I was walking out to my car, and I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting looking piece of wood." And I came back from the car and looked at it again, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit, that's a squirrel!" Because like I thought it was a piece of driftwood, you know, and like it had a skull in it. Weird, but like this is the shit that I like living around a bunch of wild animals. Basically, I feel better. That that there's something else around, and B that these animals are living in this city anyway. And for now, while I'm here, they have a refuge. Even though they're like possums and raccoons and whatever, it's not like I have 100 fucking of those things or something, but like I have a couple of possums that live in my trees and I don't do anything about them. I don't see a reason to do anything about them. I love animals. I especially love seeing the little baby rabbits every spring. And this year there were a fuck ton of baby everythings, especially squirrels. Like, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm guessing we're going to have a post COVID baby boom. And actually, judging by my own sexual tendencies during COVID, and I'm surprised we already haven't had one. We should look into this because, like, during COVID, you either went one or two ways. You either went, I'm not ever going anywhere doing anything, or you went, fuck it, we're all gonna die. Let's go have sex. Like for most of COVID, I was just doing that with one person, but I don't know. I wasn't as worried about it as most people. I honestly think I've had COVID a couple times and walked it off both times. I wouldn't know because I haven't had a COVID test or a COVID vaccine or anything. Like this is like at this point, this is some religious stuff. I think what they're doing with that goes against God. So much so that I'm making this church. Which I don't know what this church is a god to other than the Church of the Rifle or whatever. I was going to make that a video earlier today. I still have that typed up. I think I haven't done it though. And it's like my idea of the Church of the Rifle is like your God is whatever you meditate on. So why not make that your martial art in a way? And if you're in today's day and age, your martial art is rifle shooting first and foremost before anything else. Like handgun shooting, rifle shooting, handgun shooting, and like empty hand skills, blunt object skills, and knife skills would be the things that I'd focus on. So, like, if anything is like, your martial art, it's marksmanship. And like, this would be the Church of the Rifle. This is like some like samurai shit or whatever. They thought their sword was their soul. Like, at this point, if they're gonna keep fucking with us, I'm gonna make a samurai religion. That's what you're watching here is the formation of my church. And there's not going to be any book, really, probably. I don't know, maybe I'll write a book eventually for it. There's not gonna be any preachers other than me. It's just gonna be me talking shit and telling you about the tenets of our crazy ass religion that, guarantees you the right to keep and bear arms or some shit. Like, if they're going to try to take the Second Amendment away, I'm 100% going to use the First Amendment to cover this shit because guns are a part of my religion. Like, the whole Mandalorian thing struck many a chord with all of us. And I think there were reasons for that. I think they did market research on us or some shit, but weapons are our religion. For those of you watching this, like, I believe in a God. I don't know what to call them, but like the architect of all things, creator of the universe, whatever. I believe something like that exists. There's some sort of logic to the way things are. Short of that, I'm pretty well convinced that there were a bunch of aliens pretending to be God at some point on this planet. Like, hella convinced of that now. So, like, for my own God, like, I'm kind of in the camp of try to treat everyone like you'd want to be treated and try to love everyone. Like, I'm big on love. I'm also big on 716 NATO to the head if they don't like love. So, like, this is the point where, like, I'm realizing that I'm starting an Aphrodite cult in a way, but like, I'm not, because like, this is like somewhere between Christianity, atheism, Conan the Barbarian, and a cult to Aphrodite fused together. I'm calling it, something. I don't know what I'm going to call my new religion. I should think of that. I should have my new religion and my new martial art. The Church of the Rifle. I think it's funny that they think they can fuck with people's lives and that nothing like this is ever going to happen where people literally form a religion to say fuck you. They don't even know that this exists yet or that it could get big. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping this religion that I'm spreading right now 100% sweeps Texas and Oklahoma, and they all give the fucking middle finger to the federal government all at the same time. What are you going to do? You're going to come and kill us? If that's really what you're going to do, well, then I guess it's a really good thing I have so many guns. In my opinion, right now, the Democratic Party are representing the King of England. A bunch of fucking red coat motherfuckers that want us tied in with Europe. We're about to fight a war for the soul of America. Decide now what kind of man you are. It's like, if you make decisions like that under fire, live with yourself. Decide now what you will and won't do. That's kind of my thing with having a code and living by it, because it's not like, oh, it's not like I'm controlled by whoever. I think that's one of the cool things about this channel is I am controlled by my own personal code, which only I and God know, basically. And I guess I could share that with you, but I try not to fucking hurt people. I try not to dwell on negative things. Try to just enjoy life. And like I got a lot of that from a Tecumseh quote. That's I've quoted a few times. But I could look that up. It's a good thing to finish on, and this is starting to get a little long in the tooth. I was told that you wanted longer videos, so if you listen to this whole thing, then say so, because I think this is really, really long. Although I am putting this on Patreon, so maybe everyone will listen to it there. Let's see. I want to get the whole quote. Fucker. Okay, here we go. This is one of my favorite quotes ever, and it's just kind of a how to live your life kind of thing. And ever since I read it, this has rang true with me. So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long in its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, or even a stranger when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. Grovel to none, sorry. I can't talk apparently. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. You see no reason for giving thanks. The fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. So, the meaning that I get out of this is that you could die tomorrow. You could die in 5 minutes. Whatever it is that you think you have to do is bullshit. Do what you want to do. Now, if what you want to do is horrific, don't do that. But like, figure out what it is that you love. Dedicate your life to doing that. Don't feed into this corporate machine and this bullshit. Become someone who can make something of value. Become an artist. Become a maker. Become anything but a slave to their fucking system. And the thing that those people will never get is that they don't have the time to make something like this because they're a slave. And like, I'm not saying that like this life is fucking, all it's cracked up to be or whatever. It's fucking hard and it sucks and you run out of money and yada yada yada. But I don't have to worry about not saying the wrong woke thing to get fired or whatever. And I managed to survive. Now, I don't have children. If you have children, I think that complicates a lot of things. But honestly, I think if you have children, you owe it to them to fucking get them out of this shit. I would work as hard as I could to get as much money as I could to buy a section of land out somewhere to fucking build a thing on your own. Build a homestead for your family. That's the future of America. We're going to go into some sort of neo-feudalism. When the Roman Empire collapsed, it collapsed into a bunch of wealthy estates that were heavily fortified against the barbarians. Food for thought. Thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting me on Patreon. And I hope you enjoyed this long, extended edition of the What Would Ray Ray Do podcast, or whatever the fuck you want to call this. I like that because this is church-like, and like it's like, what would Jesus do? I am the Jesus of my own religion. It's not true. I told someone the other day that I was John the Baptist. So I always thought it was funny to post shit about Conan on Easter, because there's literally like Conan being hung on a cross or whatever and killing the fucking buzzard. I love that picture, and it always makes me think of Jesus. And John Milius did that on purpose. He thought it was funny that, like, you know, Jesus is there on the cross. He's like weak and dying or whatever. But then there's Conan, strong on his mountain, killing the raven before it can, you know, do whatever. Like, it's fucking hilarious. Thanks for watching.